All right.
All right, we are on episode 15.
Episode 15.
hmm
Wow.
Got any updates for anybody this week?
I start my promotion in a couple weeks. Super excited about it.
Yeah, yep.
Um, Annie got a ADHD diagnosis
Oh,
this
I haven't heard
yeah.
about this.
Oh, I didn't tell you that she was diagnosed with ADD?
No.
ADHD, I mean. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's official now,
Yeah, it's
even though
official.
we've known it for years.
Yeah. And yeah, that's really all I got.
Okay. Well, uh, I was in the shop this week. My big truck decided it was just not gonna work, so I got a little bit of downtime and learned a little something new. You ready for
Okay.
this one? There's actually been a recent update on the Loch Ness Monster. Somebody
Okay.
got new footage, and I was pretty excited because it doesn't look any more serious than like a nice good wave, but there wasn't any waves around. The water was calm. There was no boats, and it had a nice long dark shadow, and it looked a little scaly in some areas. It's
Ooh.
pretty freaking cool. And then it just disappears. Yeah.
That's
And
exciting.
yeah. And then while the people were discussing this, I found out that there's enough evidence in Sweden of their own version of Loch Ness Monster that they've considered it endangered. Sweden's government has officially declared their version of Loch Ness Monster. Don't ask me how to pronounce it. I won't be able to.
Okay.
It's Slavic. I can't, or not Slavic. I don't know. It's
Swedish.
Swedish. It's Swedish. I
Yeah.
can't say that word at all.
Okay.
But yeah, they've declared it an endangered species.
That's neat.
Yeah, I was excited because I don't watch TV. Okay, like like aside from the fact that we rarely have time to watch TV anymore, I've lost interest. But I do remember when I was a teenager, I'd watch Travel Channel because they had like all the ghost stuff, the paranormal stuff, and all that. And so I literally spent 2 days in a hotel room watching the Travel Channel. So that was fun.
Neat.
hmm
I worked.
Yeah, you worked. I know. I would have, but you know,
Your truck was broke
yeah,
down.
the truck decided it just wasn't gonna work. Hey, fun fact though, I have AC again, which I haven't for like what do we go?
Months.
Yeah, we're going on like 2-3 months now. I haven't had AC in the big truck. Not fun in a black truck. Let me just tell you.
Doesn't sound like fun.
So, you got
You
any?
have only been bitching about it all weekend, every weekend since it happened. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna guess it was not fun.
yeah. You got any disclosures for anybody? I know
There.
we started doing that like thing where we're like, hey, we are just explicit,
Yeah.
but
Well, my story is about a serial rapist and murderer. So yeah, there's not
hmm,
good shit in this story.
interesting because I have a couple trigger warnings to point out as well, which is sexual assault and sexual harassment and abuse. And there's some talk of suicide, like a possibility that it was suicide.
Okay.
So, so a serial rapist. What kind of story are we talking about this week?
The Ken and Barbie killers from Canada.
Oh, now I've always had a feeling that Barbie was a little suspicious, but do tell.
I'm going on theme with the Barbie movie coming out recently, and so this story is about, not that they have actually anything to do with Ken and Barbie. They were
Oh, okay. I
called
was about to say.
they were called the Ken and Barbie killers because they looked like your wholesome kids next door,
Oh, I see. I
um,
see.
blonde, blue eyed couple.
Gotcha.
This story is about Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka.
Okay.
So let's deep dive into that and go way back to start with Paul. Paul was born in Scarborough, Ontario on August 27th, 1964.
Okay.
His mother's name was Marilyn and his father's Kenneth.
Hmm.
Kenneth's father, so Paul's grandfather,
Yeah.
was known to be abusive to his wife and kids.
Oh.
Kenneth was also known to be abusive to his wife and kids.
Oh, I see the pattern.
Yes, Kenneth had affairs and also molested his daughter.
Oh gosh.
Kenneth was actually charged in 1975 for molesting a little girl.
Starting out strong.
Yes. Anyway, Paul was the youngest of three. Turns out his mom had an affair, and Kenneth was not his biological father, though.
Oh.
Kenneth didn't seem to care. They remained married, and he signed Paul's birth certificate. Maybe he didn't know about it.
Yeah, it's
Who knows?
possible.
The older children showed signs of being affected by their father's abuse, but Paul did not.
Hmm.
Paul was said to be a sweet little boy that everyone loved. Everyone was jealous of how well behaved he was. He was an adorable little blonde haired, blue eyed prince who excelled in school and was just a good kid.
Okay.
One day, following an argument between him and his parents, when Paul was 16, his mother told him the truth about who his father was. And he quickly became repulsed by his own mother, openly calling her a whore and a slob.
That was a quick turn.
Eventually, his mother became depressed over her husband's abuse, and she withdrew from the family and lived in the basement away from them in the family home.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Paul graduated from Sir Wilfrid Laurier Collegiate Institute.
Sounds very French.
And Paul ended up working for Amway, which is a Ponzi scheme from the 80s and 90s.
Nice.
Also, a company that the LuLaRoe founders worked for. So, circling back
There you go.
to an old episode there.
Yeah.
The Ponzi scheme sales culture had a big effect on Paul's personality, and he took those techniques for sales and utilized them in dating women along with his friends.
Okay.
It was fairly successful. He would also be considered to be classically attractive, according to like American beauty standards of that time.
Okay.
At some point, he starts to going to the University of Toronto in Scarborough for accounting, and he does become an accountant. By this time, Paul has started to develop some deviant sexual fantasies,
Raggy.
enjoying humiliating women in public and beating up women he dated.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Listen, like there's an okay side to an aggressive nature in the bedroom, but keep it to the bedroom and keep it consensual.
Right. Anyway, in October of 1987, he met Carla Homolka at a hotel bar. It was like a dog or animal convention.
Okay.
So Carla Homolka's early life is much simpler, or does it make it more complicated after what goes down?
Yeah.
Carla's mom Dorothy and dad Karel, Karel.
Okay.
She had siblings Logan and Tammy. Carla, both sisters. Carla had a normal childhood and was a normal kid. Born May 4th, 1970, she grew up in Ontario, Canada, in a known to be normal family of five. She was the eldest of three girls. Her friends from school described her as smart, attractive, popular, and an animal lover.
Okay.
Carla was a vet tech at the local animal hospital where she lived in St. Catharines.
All right.
Paul was 23 when he met Carla, and Carla was 17.
Ooh. That's a
Yes, I said they met at a hotel bar and at that convention. So,
drinking age is a little different in Canada, but yeah.
Paul and Carla had instant chemistry. They actually had sex in the hotel room that same day.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Based on what happens, I'm assuming they discovered that they both shared sadomasochist desires.
Gonna have to say something happened.
Also, around this time, Paul buys a video camera and starts taping pretty much everything that he does. And that's an important detail for later.
I mean, I went through that phase.
So, between 1987 and 1990, Paul committed increasingly vicious serial rapes in and around Scarborough.
I did not go through that phase.
He attacked most of his victims after stalking them when they got off of buses late in the evening.
Jeez.
These attacks were extremely vicious. He penetrated them orally, vaginally, and anally, and also with foreign objects.
Uh huh.
He threatened them with weapons and he beat them.
Oh man, it's just getting worse.
I wanted to give the Scarborough rapist victims their moment in the story. I feel like these crimes get swept under the rug because of the killings and because of what happens with Carla.
Okay.
I am, however, not going to mention names of the rape victims.
Okay.
Um, there are some lawsuits surrounding like Paul and Carla,
Gotcha.
and it's not exactly easy to find their names. So I didn't even try.
Okay.
So these are Paul Bernardo's known rapes. He is still currently being questioned about other possible killings and rapes as like so May 4th, 1987, rape of a 21-year-old woman in Scarborough in front of her parents' house after he followed her home.
Wow.
Yes.
In front of her parents'
In
house?
front of her parents' house.
Damn, that's ballsy. That's
Um
bad.
May 14th, 1987, so 10 days later, rape of a 19-year-old woman in the backyard of her parents' house.
Jeez.
July 17th, 1987, so a couple months later, attempted rape of a young woman. However, he did beat her. He abandoned the attack when she fought back. So
Oh,
good for her.
yeah.
September 29th, 1987, attempted rape of a 15-year-old girl. Paul broke into her house and entered her bedroom. He jumped on her back, put his hands over her mouth, and threatened her with a knife. Bruised the side of her face and bit her ear.
Okay.
Paul fled when the victim's mother entered the room and screamed.
Wow.
Anthony Hannamayer was wrongly convicted for this assault in 1989 and served 16-month sentence for the crime.
Damn.
He was exonerated after Paul confessed to this crime in 2006.
Jeez.
Yeah, so many years.
Yeah, that's a lot.
December 16th, 1987, rape of a 15-year-old girl. The day after that, Toronto Police Service issued a warning to women in Scarborough walking alone at night.
Oh yeah, I bet.
December 23rd, 1987, rape of a 17-year-old girl. And at this point, he became known as the Scarborough Rapist.
Damn.
April 18th, 1988, attack of a 17-year-old girl. It just says attack, that's all I could find.
So it's sounding like he's not only a serial rapist, he's a freaking pedophile too.
He likes like young teenage girls.
Yeah.
May 25th, 1988, Paul was almost caught by a uniformed officer staking out a bus shelter. The officer saw him hiding under a tree, pursued him on foot, and he escaped.
Oh. Okay.
May 30th, 1988, rape of an 18-year-old woman in Mississauga, Ontario, about 25 miles southwest of Scarborough.
I know you said that name wrong, but I
Yeah.
don't know how to say it either.
Mississauga. Mississauga. I don't.
If
I'm
anybody
so
knows,
sorry,
let us
Canada.
know.
October 4th, 1988, attempted rape in Scarborough. She fought back, and he managed to stab her in the thigh and butt, which required 12 stitches.
Damn.
November 16th, 1988, rape of an 18-year-old woman in the backyard of her parents' house.
Jeez. He's just, that's a
Yeah,
lot
the
of people.
ballsy.
Not only is it ballsy, that's like you're just, the numbers just keep going. That's a lot.
Yeah. November 17th, 1988, police formed a task force.
Okay.
December 27th, 1988, attempted rape, and a neighbor fought him off the girl.
Well, good for that neighbor.
Yeah. June 20th, 1989, attempted rape. The young woman screamed and fought him off, alerting the neighbors.
Good for her.
August 15th, 1989, rape of a 22-year-old woman. November 21st, 1989, rape of a 15-year-old girl he saw in a bus shelter.
Jeez.
December 22nd, 1989, rape of a 19-year-old woman.
Does the list ever end?
So May 26th, 1990, rape of a 19-year-old woman. Her vivid recollection of her attacker made it possible for police to get a composite sketch of the Scarborough rapist. This was the first victim that saw his face.
Oh, good. Good, good, good.
Yeah.
We're making progress. I hope.
So during all these rapes happening, the relationship between Carla was hot and heavy.
Yeah.
Carla and Paul.
That's disturbing.
They were madly in love, and Paul was traveling an hour or so back and forth between Scarborough in St. Catharines to be with Carla as much as possible.
Wow.
So Paul is staying at Carla's parents' house on the weekends, and he really becomes a part of the Homolka family. And they welcomed him and liked him very much. Yeah, her
Okay.
mother described Carla as having a glow when she was with Paul. They had no reason to suspect anything from him.
It's kind of concerning, disturbing, even.
Carla and Paul are drinking a lot and partying, and there's a ton of video footage of that.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden, that composite sketch of the Scarborough rapist comes out, and Paul is moving in with the Homolkas
Oh,
an hour or so away from Scarborough.
imagine that.
Also, when Paul moves, the Scarborough rapes stop.
Oh, imagine that too.
Sometime in May, a tip is called into the Scarborough Rapist Task Force saying that Paul Bernardo is an abusive, manipulative man that looks identical to the sketch. And if you do look like a picture of the composite and a picture of Paul, it's like dead ringer for Paul. Dead ringer.
Okay.
In July 1990, 2 months after that tip, just before Paul moved to St. Catharines, Paul was interviewed by the task force the first time. They met a clean cut, seemingly sincere, forthcoming white boy. He was on the suspect list, but they didn't peg him for it. Police called Paul in again on November 20th, 1990.
Oh, jeez.
They interviewed him for 45 minutes, and Paul voluntarily provided DNA samples. He also admitted to looking like the composite sketch.
Okay, so he's either really cocky or really stupid, or both.
The police described him as being like really believable and honest and so forthcoming that they didn't suspect him.
Wow.
So by this time, Paul has lost his job as an accountant and was smuggling cigarettes across the border for money.
Wow.
Carla's friends at the vet clinic start to notice that Paul is like really controlling. Like she has to answer whenever he calls the clinic, no matter what she's doing. If he calls and says it's time to leave, she has to leave. Like it doesn't matter.
Red flag.
Yeah. Paul and Carla have also gotten engaged by this point.
Oh my gosh.
So he's living with the family. He's with them all the time, and he's a part of this family. Despite his engagement to Carla, he had become obsessed with her younger sister, Tammy,
Of course.
15 years old.
Whoa.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Anyways, Paul was peering into her window and entering her room at night to masturbate while she was sleeping.
Oh, God.
Carla helped Paul break her windows so he could do that.
She helped?
Yes.
Ugh.
Around July of 1990, Carla had stolen some Valium from the vet clinic. She served it to her 15-year-old sister, Tammy, in her spaghetti.
Uh-oh.
Like she laced her spaghetti sauce with Valium.
Right.
Tammy soon lost consciousness.
Oh, yeah.
Paul then raped her while Carla watched.
What?
And after about 1 minute, Tammy woke up, so they stopped.
Oh, my God.
So on December 23rd, 1990, the family was having a party where there were drinks for Christmas.
Yeah.
Their mom, Dorothy, says, sure, Tammy can have a few drinks with us. Why not? Which is not something I really want to do with my kids. I'm hoping to educate them on the damages that alcohol and drugs do to your brain before it fully develops. But we'll see.
I mean, on one side of the fence, it's like, I'd rather them do it here than hiding somewhere because they're going to get in trouble. They're going to get hurt. Something stupid's going to happen.
Right.
But on the other side, I don't want them to, like...
drink it all until their brains are developed.
Yeah, I don't want them to, like, make stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess no parent wants their kids to make stupid mistakes, but we all do.
Anyway, Carla had decided she wanted to give her sister Tammy's virginity to Paul for Christmas.
Hell of a Christmas present.
Since Paul had said he was disappointed he wasn't Carla's first.
Oh, that's...
how fucking juvenile.
It's not even juvenile. It's disgusting.
So Carla laces her eggnog and rum cocktail with sleeping pills.
Jeez.
When Tammy fell asleep, Carla and Paul undressed her. Carla had stolen the anesthetic agent halothane from the vet clinic.
Uh-oh.
She soaked a rag with it and held it over Tammy's nose and mouth. Like,
Yeah, it's essentially chloroform.
She basically rubbed that on her face.
Hmm.
Um, then they both proceeded to rape her together,
Oh my gosh.
vaginally and anally, and they taped it. They videotaped it.
Oh no.
So at some point during the rape, Tammy begins to vomit, and she must have stopped breathing because they tried to revive her.
Okay.
And after hiding evidence, they called 911.
Oh yeah, they had to hide everything first.
Yeah, they dressed Tammy, put her in her bedroom, cleaned her up, and cleaned the vomit and all that. A few hours later, on Christmas Eve of 1990, shortly before her 16th birthday of New Year's Day, Tammy was pronounced dead without ever regaining consciousness.
Oh no.
Despite being observed vacuuming and washing laundry in the middle of the night, and despite a chemical burn on Tammy's face, the coroner believed Carla and Paul's version of events, that she got drunk and went to bed. Her official cause of death was ruled accidental, the result of choking on vomit after drinking alcohol.
Um, did somebody take his license or that coroner's license?
After Tammy's death, Paul and Carla videotaped themselves engaging in sexual intercourse, with Carla wearing Tammy's clothing and pretending to be her.
That's
Disgusting.
yeah.
So they move out of the Homolka house to a rented bungalow in Port Dalhousie soon after the death of Tammy, to allow Carla's parents to grieve.
Hmm.
So on June 15th, 1991, while driving through Burlington to steal license plates, Paul came across 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey.
Oh no. I noticed that they're getting younger too.
Yeah, Leslie had been locked out of her house after missing her curfew. Her mom was trying to set an example. She had had enough of her daughter disrespecting her and staying out late and sneaking out,
Right.
so she locked the house.
I mean, been there, done that.
Paul approached Leslie saying he wanted to break into a neighbor's house. Unfazed by this, Leslie asked him for a cigarette. 14-year-old girl,
Yeah.
hot adult man, talking about doing some illegal shit. She's like,
Yeah, it's always the girls
yeah.
going after the bad boys.
And, she wasn't like, she was sneaking out and staying out past curfew. So obviously she was somewhat of a troubled teen.
Yeah,
So susceptible to those kind of things.
sure.
Anyway,
I have a feeling this is going to have a really bad turn.
Leslie asked him for a cigarette, and doing that, he lured her to his car. We'll come to my car, I'll go get it.
Yep, there it
Once
is.
they got there, he blindfolded her and forced her into the car and took her home.
Oh no.
He woke up Carla and said, "We have a victim."
What? That.
Yeah. Paul and Carla videotaped themselves torturing and raping Leslie while they listened to pop music.
Oh my gosh.
All manners of rape, while they said disgusting things to her.
Yeah.
At some point, Leslie tells Paul that the blindfold is slipping, as to indicate she could identify her attackers.
Mm-hmm.
The following day, this is debated because there is no video evidence of the killings, only of the rapes.
Right.
Paul says that Carla gave her a lethal dose of Halcyon, the same sleeping pill they used to put Tammy to sleep.
Okay.
Carla says that Paul strangled her. They put her body in the basement so they could have a dinner party with Carla's family.
Oh my god.
The day after the party, they decide to dismember Leslie's body with Paul's grandfather's circular saw.
Whoa.
Paul goes to the hardware store and buys 4 dozen bags of cement. He also kept the receipts from that trip. Pretty damning for him.
Mm-hmm.
They encased her body parts in the cement and took several trips to dump the cement blocks in Lake Gibson, about 11 miles south of Port Dalhousie.
Jesus.
One of the blocks weighed over 200 pounds, and they couldn't get it far enough out to sink, so they laid it near the shore.
Oh, okay.
Police, her family, and everyone believed Leslie to be a runaway, so the search for her did not really start right away.
That mother has to have a hell of a survivor's guilt right now.
Yeah, it's got to be hard.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of believed she would come back home, that she would just show up.
Right.
Like she crashed at a friend's house for the night and she would be back.
Yeah, I mean, based on previous pattern, yeah, I can see that.
So on June 29th, 1991, Carla and Paul were married, only 6 months after her sister Tammy's accidental, air quotes, death.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, a fisherman found Leslie's dismembered foot encased in the cement the same day as their wedding,
Oh, that's fun.
and Leslie's body was found.
Hell of a wedding gift.
Leslie had an orthodontic appliance that was critical in identifying her body.
Okay.
Um,
That's your teeth.
yes. Carla goes on to later tell police that Paul admitted to being the Scarborough rapist to her on their honeymoon.
Okay. As if she didn't already know.
After the wedding, a former coworker at the clinic claims that Carla is showing up to work always injured and had bruises on her all the time, and that it was like kind of known at work that Paul was beating her.
Yeah, but it sounds like she wanted him to.
Yeah. So on April 16th, 1992, Paul and Carla were driving around St. Catharines to look for potential victims.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not too long after school let out in the area, but the streets were pretty empty. As they passed Holy Cross Secondary School, they saw 15-year-old Kristen French walking home.
I believe secondary school is high school for all of us Americans.
They pulled into the nearby parking lot of the Grace Lutheran Church. Carla approached Kristen with a map asking for directions.
Uh-oh.
While talking to Carla, Paul grabbed her from behind and forced her into the front seat of the car by knife point. Carla kept her subdued by pulling her hair from the back seat as they drove home.
You know, I feel like that's a like not necessarily common, but it's a good trick by sex traffickers as well, is to use
A good
women.
trick? Or just a trick?
Well, yeah, but it's they use women because women approach women. It's not as suspicious as a man that's approaching a woman. So
That's something that Carla brought up,
yeah.
is that he hit the jackpot when they met because she was great. What's the word? Bait.
Oh gosh.
After Kristen failed to arrive home, they called the police within minutes.
Okay.
Within 24 hours, the Niagara Regional Police Service assembled a team, searched Kristen's after school walk home route.
Mm-hmm.
They found several witnesses that saw the abduction from different locations.
Hmm.
They also recovered Kristen's shoe from the parking lot.
Wow, that's a lot of quick evidence.
Yeah.
That's impressive. By the way, for us Americans that have this misunderstanding about, missing persons reports, it is a complete misnomer. It does not take 24 hours. You do not have to wait 24 hours for
No,
someone to
to
be
call
reported
someone.
missing.
So I saw the news footage of her parents trying to find her. It was pretty heart wrenching.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Over the Easter weekend, Paul and Carla videotaped themselves torturing, raping, and sodomizing Kristen,
Oh, man.
forcing her to drink large amounts of alcohol and forcing her to submit to Paul's will, pretty much.
Oh, God.
The next day, they killed her before going to Easter dinner with Carla's family.
Wow.
This is also debated again with no video evidence of the killings.
Mm-hmm.
Paul claims that Kristen was tied by a noose secured to a hope chest and she tried to escape. So Carla beat her with a rubber mallet and she was strangled in the process.
Ooh.
Carla claims that Paul strangled her for 7 minutes with an electrical cord while she watched. So on April 30th, 1992, Kristen's dead body was found wrapped up in a carpet nude.
Oh, yeah.
She had been washed and her hair was chopped off, and she was in a ditch in Burlington, about 45 minutes from St. Catharines,
Jesus.
and a short walk from the cemetery where Leslie Mahaffey was buried.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I'm going to read off a list of other potential victims before we get to the apprehension, arrest, trial, and conviction and sentencing.
Okay.
Derek Finkel wrote a book in 1997 called No Claim to Mercy, where he presented evidence tying Paul Bernardo to the presumed murder of 22-year-old Elizabeth Bain, who disappeared on June 19th, 1990.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a little bit more details in it, but he doesn't admit to it. There is an actual interview where they ask him about it in 2007. Bernardo said the answer to that is no, but the 800-pound gorilla in the room, that is it is a life to 25 sentence.
Right.
So, um, shortly after Tammy Homolka's funeral, her parents left town, and her sister Lori visited her grandparents in Mississauga, leaving the house empty.
Yeah.
According to the author Stephen Williams, during that weekend of January 12th, 1991, Bernardo abducted a girl, took her to the house, raped her while Carla watched, and dropped her off on a deserted road near Lake Gibson.
Good grief.
Bernarda and Homolka called her the January girl.
Uh-oh.
Um, at about 5:30 a.m. on April 6, 1991, Paul Bernardo abducted a 14-year-old who was training to be a coxswain for a local rowing team.
I'm assuming that's a position.
Yeah. The girl was distracted by a blonde woman who waved at her from her car. Carla was blonde,
Yeah.
enabling Paul to drag her into the shrubbery near the rowing club. He has sexually assaulted her, forced her to remove her clothes, and made her wait 5 minutes, during which he disappeared.
Oh, God.
On June 7th, 1991, Homolka invited to their home a 15-year-old girl, officially known as Jane Doe.
Okay.
She had befriended at a pet shop 2 years earlier. After being drugged by Homolka, Doe was sexually assaulted by the couple, which was videotaped. In August of that year, Doe was invited back to the couple's residence and was again drugged and again raped, but Homolka called 911 for help after the girl vomited and stopped breathing while being raped.
Oh, my gosh.
But the ambulance ended up being recalled after Paul Bernardo and Homolka resuscitated her.
Okay.
On July 28th, 1991, Paul stalked Sydney Kirshen, age 21, after he saw her while driving home from work.
Mm-hmm.
On August 9th, he resumed stalking her. This time she took evasive action, stopping at her boyfriend's house just prior to his arrival. After spotting Bernardo, the boyfriend gave chase, came across Bernardo's gold Nissan, and took note of the license plate. The couple
Good
reported
on him.
the incident to the Niagara Regional Police, which established that the car belonged to Bernardo.
Oh, there you go.
An NRP officer visited Bernardo's house and saw the car parked in the driveway, but did not pursue the matter, nor submit an official police report.
All right. Well, hey, we're making progress. We're getting ready to catch his ass.
Well, he didn't actually submit a report about that complaint.
Oh,
So,
damn.
a newspaper clipping found during the police search of Paul Bernardo's house described a rape that occurred in Hawaii during the couple's honeymoon there in the summer of 91.
Jesus Christ.
The article describes a rape very similar to Paul's, and its occurrence during the couple's presence in Hawaii led police to speculate on Paul's involvement.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's never been prosecuted for it due to extradition issues.
Right.
On November 30th, 1991, Terry Anderson, a grade 9 student at Lake Sport Secondary School adjacent to French's Catholic school, vanished less than 2 kilometers, 1.2 miles from the parking lot where French would later be abducted.
Oh, jeez.
In April of 1992, the MRP, the police, said they had no evidence to suggest a link. Anderson's body was ultimately found in water at Port Lucie.
Oh,
The coroner saw no evidence of foul play despite the difficulties of determining such factors in a body that had been in the water for 6 months. The coroner's ruling that her death was by drowning, probably as a result of drinking beer and taking LSD, was controversial in light of the circumstances of the Mahaffey and French murders. So they could have
Yeah.
killed another girl
yeah, that's
named Terry Anderson.
strong point there.
Yeah. On March 29th, 1999, Bernardo stalked and videotaped sisters Shayna and Kara Patridge from his car, following them to their parents' house.
Good grief.
The sisters incorrectly recorded his license plate number. Shayna reported the incident to the police on March 31st, 1992, and was given an incident number should further information develop. On April 18th, 1992, while French was still being held captive, Paul was spotted by Carrie while he had gone out to buy dinner and rent a movie. Despite failing to track him to his house, Carrie got a better description of his license plate and car, which she reported to the police. This
All right.
information, however, was mishandled by the police.
Damn. I
In,
thought we were getting somewhere. Damn.
in 2006, Bernardo confessed to at least 10 more sexual assaults dating back to March 1986,
Holy shit.
including the assault of the 15-year-old girl that I talked about earlier in the story that guy Anthony Handmayer had been convicted of.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So Carla and Paul had been questioned on more than one occasion in connection to the Scarborough rapist investigation,
Uh-oh.
Tammy Hamalka's death, and Paul stalking other women before Kristen French was even abducted. But do you think investigators put two and two together?
Well, hell no.
Clearly not. On May 12, 1992, Paul was briefly interviewed by a police sergeant and constable who decided that he was an unlikely suspect in regards to the disappearance of the girls.
I wonder how hard he's slapping himself now.
Despite him admitting to be previously questioned about the Scarborough rapes.
Oh my gosh.
3 days later, the Green Ribbon Task Force was created to investigate the murder of the girls in St. Catharines.
Okay.
Around this time, Paul and Carla applied to change their names to Teal, which Paul had taken from a serial killer in the 1988 film Criminal Law.
Wow.
At the end of May, John Motil, an acquaintance of Paul's, reported him as a possible suspect for these murders. That's just another one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just add a tick mark.
Sometime in December of 1992, the Center of Forensic Sciences finally, after 2 years, began testing the DNA samples Paul provided for the Scarborough rapist case.
Oh, Jesus.
He provided it 2 years before they tested it.
Right.
So those girls wouldn't have died if they had tested it sooner.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, on December 27th, 1992, Paul severely beat Carla with a flashlight, leaving multiple bruises. She was pretty beat up. She had like 2 black eyes, probably a broken nose. I saw the photos.
Ooh, those are rough.
Carla, however, returned to work on January 4th, 1993, complaining she had been in a car accident.
Okay.
Her coworkers finally had enough and called her parents.
Right.
Her parents, trying to rescue her, forcefully removed her from the house the next day. Carla ran back into the house, frantically looking for something.
Uh-huh.
But they took her to the nearby General Hospital, where she gave a statement of being a battered spouse and filed charges against Paul.
Okay.
He was arrested but released on his own recognizance. I can't say that word. Recognizance. Anyway, 26 months after Paul submitted a DNA sample, the Toronto police were informed his DNA was a match for the rapes.
Oh my God.
He was immediately placed under arrest for 24-hour surveillance.
Finally.
On February 9th, 1993, Carla was interviewed by Metro Toronto Sexual Assault Squad investigators. She mostly tried to focus on talking about the abuse that Paul subjected her to.
Right.
But that night, after talking to the police, she confessed to her aunt and uncle that Paul was the Scarborough rapist, involved in killing the girls at St. Catharines, and involved in the death of Tammy. Also that the rapes were on videotape.
Holy shit.
So
that's a lot.
Yeah. So the police officially reopened the investigation into Tammy's death.
Yeah.
2 days later, Carla met with a lawyer, George Walker, from Niagara Falls, who sought for her immunity in exchange for her testimony. So Carla's story, she was a battered wife, and he made her do all of this. And she was so afraid of Paul, that's why she did it.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much the story. On February 13th, 1993, the couple's name change went through.
Oh my gosh.
But on February 17th, detectives arrested Paul on several charges and obtained a search warrant for the house.
Right.
Meanwhile, they started to heavily interview Carla even more.
Yeah.
Trying to build a case against Paul to make sure he never sees the light of day again.
Oh, well, that's not where I was going with that. But okay.
Carla sang like a canary, pointing the finger at Paul for everything.
Yeah, but I felt like she wasn't all innocent in that.
So the search warrant. Police spent 71 days in that house, literally ripping it to shreds. They ripped out walls, took out all the furniture, they took samples off of everything to find even the little bits of evidence of the murder, and they found nothing. Not the tapes, nada. All they found was a tape of Carla performing oral sex on Jane Doe.
Wow.
Yes. So meanwhile, Paul hires a lawyer and tells him where the tapes are.
Okay.
Ken Murray, this guy.
Oh boy.
So the warrant expires on the house. Ken sneaks in there at night and finds the tapes hidden behind a light fixture in the bathroom.
Really?
Like in the ceiling.
Yeah. But I mean, they're tearing out walls and they didn't check a light fixture.
What does Ken do? He decides that he's going to keep the tapes hidden until the trial and surprise the Crown's attorneys by discrediting their star witness, Carla, right when she's on the stand and he shows the tapes. Very much just as illegal to do in Canada as it is in the US. You have to turn over all your evidence to the other side.
Yes.
So meanwhile, Carla is manipulating the police to figure out if they have the tapes. She's given them little tidbits. She admits to killing her sister and to just Paul raping her.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She says things like she made friends with Kristen French, you know, the girl she helped rape and kill,
Mm-hmm.
that they did each other's hair and makeup.
Oh my gosh.
She also basically admits in a roundabout way to ordering the death of Kristen by implying they needed to go to Easter dinner at her parents' house, and she didn't want her in the house anymore when she could possibly escape while they were gone.
Oh boy.
She also took a tour of the house with police, and she dressed up like a schoolgirl in like a plaid skirt and vest and like the white button up and the tie and everything with braids in her hair.
Okay.
21-year-old woman at this point.
Right. I'm confused.
She dressed up like a schoolgirl and tried to act all innocent walking around that house. Meanwhile, she was asking for some of her stuff back and asking if they destroyed all the furniture.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm baffled. I'm sorry. I'm confused. Jesus.
Yeah.
This woman.
So the police are just eating everything she said. Like, she has them eating out of the palm of their hands. Carla is known to have like one of the higher IQs, like the higher percentiles.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
master manipulator. Okay.
Starting to sound like it.
So the Crown's lawyers actually got her psychologically evaluated and diagnosed with battered wife syndrome, which I don't know if you know anything about battered wife syndrome, but usually that is a defense when the victim kills their abuser.
Right.
And
yeah.
that's the only time it's used.
Yeah. I thought
But
that was the case.
the Crown used that as her defense so she would be accredited to the jury, you know, have credibility.
Sure.
So on May 14th, 1993, Carla Homolka got her plea bargain finalized. She got 5 years for the death and rape of each of the girls and 2 years for the death and rape of her own sister. With 2 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and other crimes, Carla was sentenced with 12 years with the possibility of parole in 4 years.
I'm very, very upset by that.
But the police still didn't have the tapes.
Oh.
So they didn't know that Carla raped her sister. They
Right.
only had Carla's version of events.
Okay. Yeah.
Paul wasn't talking.
Oh. Well. All right.
He admitted, I believe he admitted to like some things, but he was like, Carla was like singing like a canary, like I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they took her admitting to killing her own sister as her coming clean about everything that she knew and made it more credible.
Hell of a manipulator.
Yeah.
This is frustrating.
So, citing the need to protect Paul Bernardo's right to a fair trial, a publication ban was put in place to basically cover up Carla's plea deal and sentencing.
I bet it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since Carla had previously been painted as Paul's victim, the Crown didn't want it getting out that she actually participated in some of the crimes.
Yeah. No.
But the publication ban didn't count in the United States, so they were publishing about it in the States, and people were reading about it from Canada by smuggling newspapers from the Buffalo News and the New York Times across the border.
There you go. America finally did something right.
Gordon Dom, a retired police officer who defied the publication ban by distributing details from foreign media, was convicted of 2 counts of contempt of court.
Ouch. Okay.
Yeah. In February of 1995, Carla and Paul were divorced.
Uh-huh.
So Ken Murray held on to those tapes for 17 months
Okay.
without giving them to the Crown. I think they said he ended up handing them over after quitting the case like 5 months before the trial was due to start.
Damn.
6 tapes, by the way. So a lot of evidence
Yeah.
with very little time.
And we're talking VHS, by the way.
Yeah. After he consulted another lawyer about the tapes, he was told that he had to hand them over and he had to quit.
Yeah.
By that time, even though they had the tapes and pretty clear evidence that Carla was a willing participant in these crimes, they decided to stick with Carla as their lead witness and keep the plea bargain in place.
Why?
Because they wanted to put Paul in prison for life.
Yeah, but like,
And they didn't have any other evidence besides the tapes. They had no evidence of the murders.
oh man.
Yeah. All they had evidence of was the rapes.
Right.
So they felt as though if they put them both on trial next to each other, it would just be a big argument between the two of them.
Yeah.
Because
He
as I
said,
said,
she said.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they wanted to put Paul behind bars for life for all the rapes and everything else.
Yeah. But to let her walk free, because
12 years. She got 12 years.
I know, but that's essentially walking free for the amount of shit that she took part in.
So Paul was tried for the murders of French and Mahaffey in 1995. His trial included showings of the videotapes.
Oh, uh-oh.
People actually suffered mental illness just from watching those tapes.
I bet.
A trial psychiatrist quit working in child sex crime related cases after watching them. A lawyer on Paul Bernardo's team suffered a deep depression after watching the tapes. Just horrible, unspeakable acts of depravity is how they are basically described.
I couldn't even imagine how bad it has to be for someone who works with that kind of stuff on a day-to-day basis to just quit.
So on September 1st, 1995, Paul was convicted of a number of offenses, including the murders.
Okay.
He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for at least 25 years. As for the rapes, for those he was designated a dangerous offender, making him unlikely to ever be released.
Good.
This guy also keeps taking interviews with police and reporters, as I kind of mentioned before, and he's admitting to other rapes. But I don't think anything else has actually been proven, except for the ones that I put on this list.
Oh, okay. It's still a lot.
In November 2015, Paul self-published A Mad World Order, a violent fictional 631-page ebook on Amazon. By November 1st, the book was reportedly an Amazon bestseller, but it was removed due to public outcry.
Yes.
Paul has been eligible for parole multiple times since his conviction and has not been granted yet.
Good.
January 1997, Ken Murray, the original lawyer that held the tapes,
yes,
he was charged with obstruction of justice and possession of child pornography for failing to turn over the Bernardo tapes.
Yeah.
But he was acquitted for those charges.
Oh.
He just faced disciplinary action from basically the law board in Canada.
Yeah. So he got disbarred.
Yeah.
That's
so
what Americans call it.
Carla Homolka spent her entire 12 years in prison.
Okay.
And while she was there, she got her bachelor's degree in psychology from nearby Queen's University.
Yeah, frickin' course she did.
Carla was released from prison on July 4th, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
She married one of her attorney's brothers, and in 2007, and she currently has 3 sons.
What? There are tapes
of her raping children.
And she's allowed to just, 1, have children readily accessible, and 2, walk free.
So she has been spotted in different areas throughout Canada, which is followed by public outcry and people just generally freaking out about her being in their neighborhood,
Rightfully
which is
so.
very much well deserved.
Yeah, rightfully so.
She is kind of frequently moved throughout areas of Canada and different countries trying because yeah.
Yeah, I bet she
Anyway,
has.
she's the most hated woman in Canada. Carla
Good.
Homolko also got a clean
Hey, Lucy.
slate when she got out. She is not a sex offender. She does
Why?
not have to register on a list anywhere, and she is just out there in the world.
Not cool.
Um,
Lucy is
but
currently trying to get attention, by the
yeah,
way.
hopefully someday we will have an update to this story. Jane Doe has spoken out.
Oh,
She did an article in a newspaper saying she never agreed to drop the charges for her rape against Carla Homolka, which was a part of her plea bargain that Jane
okay.
Doe agreed to drop the charges. But it
Uh-huh.
was all she's claiming it was a lie.
Okay.
And it was also a part of the decision to not overturn her plea bargain after the tapes came out. They said Jane Doe was still in agreement to dropping the charges, which she is claiming was a lie.
Ooh, this could be interesting.
Yeah. So technically, she has some possibilities of suing the government for that.
Yeah.
She also said that she found it disgusting that Carla has a better education than her and her tax money paid for it.
Yes. Yes. I have that opinion of quite a few cases. Yes.
Yeah. So in December of 2001, the 6 videotapes depicting the rape and torture of their victims were destroyed in a fire. And
Of course they were.
the house was torn down, funded by people in the neighborhood because
Ooh.
they couldn't stand to stare at it anymore.
I can't blame them.
And that's the end of my story.
That. Oh my God, babe.
Just really horrible human beings.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting that she's out and free. It's just like Casey Anthony.
Yeah. And, just based on, like, what you had said, I'm starting to feel like she was more involved in the murder than could even possibly be let on.
Oh, I forgot one detail. So
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Jane Doe, I don't know if maybe you didn't hear it. I did say it, but I said it fast. Jane Doe was a friend of Carla's that Carla lured to their house
Right. Yeah.
of her own volition without
Twice.
instruction of from Paul's twice and
Twice.
drugged her
Yes.
twice without Paul telling her to.
Yeah. I was gonna make comment about it, but
And
then you
she
moved
got
on.
off on that scot-free.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I feel like she's way more involved than.
My big question is, you are the most hated person in Canada. You are known internationally for
Mhm.
this. And you decide to have kids? What are you going to tell them? You think you expect them to believe your version of events when all they have to do is Google your name and find
Right.
out the truth?
Yeah. The internet is good and can
Yeah.
be bad.
So before we close up on my story, I wanted to say that I got all of like the dates and like specific details off of pretty much the first couple pages of Google and Wikipedia.
Okay.
But most of like the more emotional details, accounts and stuff of the story, I got off of a docu-series
Mhm.
on HBO Max called The Ken and Barbie Killers, The Lost Tapes.
I think I might have actually seen that because some of this sounded familiar.
Yeah.
So, like, and of course, I've heard you researching, so I like pick up parts of it and stuff like that. But I think I've heard about this like some time ago on maybe even a different podcast. I don't know.
But her sentencing is like, there were like congressional or whatever it's called hearings about her sentencing.
Yeah.
And like even a judge re-looked at it and disagreed to overturn it years later, citing Jane Doe agreeing to not, and she's saying that never happened.
Yeah, that could make a big difference there.
Yeah. And there is huge public outcry to this day that she is out and about living her life in Canada.
Yeah.
People don't want to live near her. I saw news footage
Hell no.
of they found her in like mainly French speaking area of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and she speaks mainly French now. She's got dark hair. She's married to one of her lawyer's brothers. The three.
Right.
Anyway, it was discovered, somebody figured out that she was living there and she was actually involved in school events at
Oh,
the school that her kids go to. Like she was taking kids to field trips and stuff.
instant outrage.
Oh
Instant
yes,
outrage.
people were like I watched the footage of people that live near her like wanting to hang her. Like yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
would
mean,
want.
that'd be like finding out essentially because Annie's not in actual school yet. She's like in like she'll be going to pre-K next year. But that'd be like finding out that one of her volunteer teachers essentially is this woman. Like no.
Right.
I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
Oh
Do you ever
my.
look at the sex offender registry though, and like just have an immediate anxiety?
Not an anxiety. I just it's probably a good thing I don't own a gun.
Yeah.
Well, baby, that was definitely a dark one. Like,
Yes.
mine's not that heavy.
Okay.
I mean, it has a mention of sexual assault, not a full episode of sexual assault.
Yeah.
uh, it is what it is. You ready for a random fact, though?
Sure.
So, 22 miles southwest of Howard, South Dakota, on the 28th of August, 1884, a gentleman named Nate Mays took what is considered to be the oldest, if not the first, ever photograph of a tornado.
That's cool.
Yeah. And it's actually a really cool picture. I'll have to show you when we get done. The reason it may not actually be the first, though, is because someone named A. Adams photographed a tornado. It was printed in the Garnet Journal of Garnet, Kansas on the 17th of May, 1907. However, in the article, it explains that it was actually taken in Garnet in 1884,
Oh.
but no specific date. So maybe, maybe not. Don't know.
Okay.
But you know what came to mind when I found out that there was tornadoes?
What?
Well, I was thinking, we ain't in Kansas no more, Toto. Sorry, I know that's not the line, and that's not really what it sounds like, but I was thinking about Wizard of Oz, really. And obviously, much of the world loves and adores the heartfelt journey of Judy Garland and her cute little dog Toto, as they search for,
Yes.
as they search for the Wizard of Oz.
I grew up on it.
Yeah, I did too. Actually, it was one of the first movies I watched as a
Yeah.
kid.
Same.
And most of us with any form of humanity tend to connect with even more of the main characters, such as like the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion,
Mm-hmm.
the Scarecrow. But did you know there's some pretty dark secrets surrounding it?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
I've
like
heard of. Well, I know the abuse that Judy Garland
yeah.
faced
I'll
as an
get it.
actress.
I'll get into that
Yeah.
towards the end here. But I was thinking more along the line of like the fact that the film might be considered cursed.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and the injuries, and you know what? How about I just tell you about it? So, yeah, let's skip down that yellow brick road, and because we're off to see the dark side of the Oz.
Okay.
hmm Now, being one of the most recognizable motion pictures to bring Technicolor to the world of Hollywood, The Wizard of Oz was actually released in 1939. Obviously, starring Judy
Judy
Garland, but there's Burt Lahr, Ray Bolger, sorry,
Garland.
Ray Bolger, and Jack Haley as Dorothy, the Lion, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
The Wizard of Oz is a film adaptation of L. Frank Baum's 1900 children's fantasy novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Uh-huh. Oh, I'm sorry. All I can think about is the movie The Wiz, and they have a song in it that's just so good. Why don't you get on down the road? Get on down the road. Don't
Hmm.
you carry nothing that might be a load. This is playing in my head right now.
Oh gosh. Well, actually, speaking of music, there's an interesting coinkydink in here. I'll get that in just a moment.
Okay.
Now, being one of the most expensive MGM productions at the time, and making about $3 million at the box office, it still wasn't actually very profitable, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that's changed over modern times, with the cult following and all the mini
Merchandise
spin-offs and
and
yeah.
yeah.
Um, but as as with many things, there's some interesting secrets that wind up being dug up over time. Now, as with many conspiracies and accusations, not everything is true or has even been proven false.
Right.
Okay? But just like the theory that during the song We're Off to See the Wizard, you can see the dead body of one of the munchkins.
Oh God.
Yeah. Now, the suggestion of the theory is that one of the cast had committed suicide on the set just at the edge of the frame. However, in reality, it's a shadow of a bird that had gotten free from one of the nearby films.
I must have had a phobia of little people when I was a kid because the Munchkins and the Oompa Loompas from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory freaked me the fuck out.
I think honestly, the Munchkins and the Oompa Loompas from the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
Yes, they freaked me the fuck out.
they
Both of
they
them.
freaked out a lot of people.
Okay, it's not just me.
No,
Okay.
I mean I wasn't bothered by them, but I'm weird, so
The orange, fucking the Oompa Loompas are more scary. Okay, the freaky orange hair, skin, and green hair. No,
Oompa Loompa.
that's why I've had every hair color in the world, but it ain't been green yet. It never will be. Not on purpose.
Did you? Oh my gosh! Did you know that? I don't know what I played earlier, but I played some kind of song for Eli, and he started doing the do 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 do.
Little up and down.
Yep.
Yes.
And I was like, Oompa Loompa, we're in trouble now. According to the editors, the challenge of making the film in Technicolor, okay,
Uh-huh.
was actually a newer process to them,
Yeah.
and not everything could be fixed like the shadows of birds on sets.
Wasn't The Wizard of Oz like one of the first Technicolor movies?
It wasn't the first, but it was one of the biggest recognized.
Yes.
And it brought Technicolor like basically to the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Now, however, okay, considering what we just heard about the Munchkin thing and that one being fake, and they've proven it's fake, especially with the what is it? What is it called?
Re-imaging?
Yeah, no, not re-imaging. I don't know.
Oh, well, when they retouch it
Remastering.
up, remastering it.
Yeah, when they remastered it and touched it up and all that stuff, yeah, you can tell it's not a Munchkin. You can actually get a little more detail in the film.
Uh-huh.
But not all theories are wrong, and have actually recently, well, not recently, but in recent years, been confirmed.
Okay.
Okay. Not being to the public's eye until years or decades later, there were several injuries on the set that no one wanted to talk about.
Okay.
These injuries actually brought up the idea, was the film cursed?
Okay.
Because obviously accidents happen.
Right.
Sure. But what kind of accidents or injuries could be that bad that a film might be considered cursed?
Well, considering that they had no OSHA, and they didn't
Right.
know that things caused cancer
Yeah.
or caused bodily harm
Right.
like that back then.
Yeah. Now, my question is was it a situation of quantity over quality? Was like the accidents that bad, or was there just that many? But did you know about the Tin Man's accident?
No.
Both of them, matter of fact,
No.
because Jack Haley wasn't actually the first Tin Man.
Okay.
Yeah, he held the role after Buddy Edson did.
Okay.
Okay. Buddy actually quit the role after complaining to MGM's head honchos and the crew of The Wizard of Oz about feeling very sick after every time he put the suit on. And of course, Cast and crew just kind of blew it off. His complaints are his complaints.
Right.
But he had a pretty damn valid reason for being sick, because the Tin Man's costume requires being painted in that iconic silvery color we see.
Uh-huh.
Um, that was aluminum dust
If
originally.
that can't be good for you.
No, this wound up leading to Buddy being hospitalized for shortness of breath, complaining of cramping and struggling to move. But after his hospitalization, MGM reformulated that dust into a solid paste, which I
Okay, but it
don't
still
think
had
it's any
aluminum in it,
better. Yeah, don't think it was any better.
right?
Interestingly enough, though, Jack Haley was also hospitalized. Of course, his wasn't from shortness of breath or anything. He wound up getting a very serious eye infection from the paste getting into his eye.
Oh.
However, he went on to record. He finished out the film. But fun fact, though, the song "Off to See the Wizard,"
Uh-huh.
both like all the remastered and everything, that song is not sang by Jack Haley. It's sang by Buddy Edson.
Okay.
So you hear his voice, even though it's not his voice the whole rest of the movie.
Okay.
Now, Margaret Hamilton, she played the Wicked Witch. She was also injured while filming. Twice.
Wow.
The first time we see Margaret is during that Munchkin Land scene.
Right.
Where they're all like dancing around and scaring the shit out of everybody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, during that scene where she like scoots off to the edge of the screen or off to the edge of the stage there, and there's a big puff of red smoke, and then it bursts into flames, and she disappears.
Yeah.
It burned her face. She wound up getting second-degree burns to her face, which is why she maintains the makeup a little stronger throughout the rest of the film. Now, in a later point in the film, the Wicked Witch is flying away while things are exploding around her in the background.
Mm-hmm.
The broom she was on caught fire.
Oh my god.
And she got second-degree burns to her legs,
and this
too.
woman kept working. Like, what?
Yeah, she just kept going. In 1995, an interesting phenomenon hit the internet. So, have you ever heard Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon album?
I personally cannot sit through the entire thing, but
it's pretty
I've
long.
heard some of it.
Yeah. Well, apparently, I've listened to this and I found some coincidence, but my opinion, you kind of have to be searching for it. But if you play the album, like hit play the same time you hit play on The Wizard of Oz, they line up on point.
Okay.
Yeah. This became such a serious trend of finding all these connections that it wound up being coined the dark side of the rainbow.
Okay.
Yeah. In 2000...
Sorry, our cats are fighting over the food bowl right now.
Yeah, Lilith's been a little... That cat is actually freaking tearing up our connection from the base of the house to the front of the house. I'm not really sure.
To the porch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's digging through insulation trying to get outside for some reason. I'm not sure what her problem is. But anyway, back to this. In 2000, the Turner Classic Movie Station, they actually aired The Wizard of Oz synchronized with the album. They played a Dark Side of the Rainbow. Yeah. Now,
I can imagine that would be interesting to watch.
Oh, I'm sure. Some of the most notable coincidences when you synchronize the two is Dorothy sitting on a fence, in Kansas, when the line "Balancing on Both Waves" plays from the song Breath. The song "Great Gig in the Sky" plays just as Dorothy's house is swept up by the tornado.
Huh.
A little irony plays along as Money plays when we are introduced to the Oz himself, the wizard.
I could see that lining up with that scene. That's like one of the few songs I do know.
Yeah. The reason why it's a little ironic is because it is the most expensive set that MGM ever built.
The Emerald City.
Yeah. The line "lunatic on the grass" plays right as we meet the Scarecrow,
Okay.
and it plays again where in the original film. Okay, the song starts playing, and you hear "If Only I Had a Brain," where he starts singing that. That line "lunatic on the grass" plays again.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Now, Pink Floyd has denied all connections to the film, going as far as saying the album was actually inspired by The Sound of Music, not The Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Yeah, which kind of curious now. um, they claim it's just an internet obsession, you know.
Yeah, people looking into things,
Hmm.
looking for it, so
Yeah,
they find it.
and Roger Walters has went on to many different like publications and been like, I had nothing to do with this. Don't blame me. But in my opinion, the darkest thing of all is what happened to Judy Garland. Like you were talking about, there was some abuse and stuff. Yeah. Before the production of The Wizard of Oz even began, Judy was already being abused by her managers, her family, and some collaborators within the studios. Once the film started.
Yeah, that's very
So
common.
yeah,
That's why my therapist mentioned that Annie was really beautiful and that she should be a model, and I was like, I just don't want to expose my child to that kind of lifestyle or predators
right. That
because
reminds me of
that's like really just what's coming out about child stars is that they're just exposed to
yeah, that
being
that
an adult before they are an adult in a lot of ways. Drugs, sex, alcohol.
yeah,
Alcohol is a drug, but anyway, people like to pull it out of that. So
yeah. Well, I mean, with your side of the podcast
working
being
long hours,
yes,
even though there's laws against that.
yeah. Well, with your side of the podcast being true crime based, that actually kind of just brings back the mindset of John Benet Ramsey. In her case,
Yeah,
she was in that beauty pageant, child beauty pageant thing. I think. I
yeah, I
think that
think
was her,
so.
right?
I think you might be right. I know
Yeah.
about the case. I just it's not in my brain right now to remember details.
Right.
So I have
Um.
other true crimes on my brain.
Yeah. During the filming of The Wizard of Oz, Judy was severely underpaid for her role,
Mm-hmm.
like significantly. So Haley, Bulger, Lar, and even Frank Morgan, who played the wizard, were paid about $3,000 a week. Now, in today's money, that's $65,850
That's a lot of money.
a week. Judy was only paid $500, which in today's money is about $11,000.
That's still a lot of money back
It's
then, but still.
it's still a lot of money, but
She's the main star of the movie. She's in every scene,
yeah, and there's like
except for
over
maybe like one.
yeah,
I
and
think there's
there's
one scene with the Wicked Witch and the flying monkeys. That's
mhm,
like the only scene she's not in.
right, and there's like over a $50,000 difference there. That's in today's money.
Yeah,
That's a huge deal. I mean, hell, even the dog was being paid $125 a week, which is about 2,800 today
well,
for a damn dog.
come on, don't come for Toto. He's cute.
Oh yeah, he's cute, but like, really, does
My
does
parents
he?
used to have that kind of dog.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, I still wonder, like, does he really deserve to be paid that much? I mean, like, just feed him; he'll
He's a
be
paid
happy.
actor.
Yeah, okay. What do you do? Anyway,
He moved when they told him to and where they told him to.
uh huh.
There you go.
Due
Leave Toto alone. Hashtag
to
free Toto.
oh gosh, due to the hectic schedule of her production and how much Judy was on camera,
Uh huh.
she was heavily medicated, like
Yeah.
with uppers and downers.
Yeah, that was something that was very common in the Hollywood child star or any age star
Yeah.
thing. Drew Barrymore talks about that,
Hmm.
and she's part of Hollywood royalty. Her family, the Barrymores, they've been in Hollywood since the beginning.
Yeah. I think in the like last 5 years, Shirley Temple, they started doing some investigation into her upbringing, and it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. And oh, speaking of Drew Barrymore, did you know the scene in E.T. Where she opens up the closet and E.T. jumps out and scares the
Yeah,
shit out of her? It was real. That her reaction is 100% real because Steven Spielberg was like, "I need a legit reaction. Don't tell her what's gonna happen."
that's messed up, man.
Scared the shit out of her.
E.T. scared the shit out of me. I never really I watched that movie like once when it came out, and
Yeah.
if I'm sorry, I was a scaredy kid.
Um, at one point while filming, I don't remember exactly what scene it is because it had something to do with her meeting the lion, Judy, where she meets the lion. She's supposed to be scared and have tears and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, the director, Victor Fleming, actually slapped Judy hard to get legit tears out of her.
Oh, that's messed up.
Yeah. It,
Are you talking about when she's like crying because she wants to go home?
I don't know. According to my sources, it said where she meets the lion, but I don't
Mm,
remember her crying when she meets the lion, so I don't know.
I don't know.
It's been a while since I
It's been
watched
a
it.
little minute. Maybe we
Yeah,
should watch it with the kids.
we should. Me and Annie would probably get it.
Annie's old enough to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, according to staff that did makeup and all that stuff,
Yeah.
the slap was so hard that the makeup artist spent extra hours every day covering up the marks and bruises that were left on her face for several weeks.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
Side note, you know my mom's named after Judy Garland.
I I was wondering. I really was. So, that's
Yeah.
cool. I mean, hey. Um, now later in life, Judy Garland also made statements that she had been sexually harassed and assaulted by various co-stars that played the roles of the Munchkins.
I knew them fuckers were freaky for a reason.
Right? And it wasn't just once or twice. It was frequent enough that she feared being in the scenes with the Munchkins because the actors would be present for quite some time after the scenes had cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was really bothered by it. Now, sadly, Judy passed away by an actual accidental overdose of barbiturates at the age of 47.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, there was actually a film adaptation of the musical End of the Rainbow, which is a biographical representation of Judy's life. You're going to have to help me with his name. Renee Zellweger?
Renee Zellweger. Yeah.
Zellweger? Okay, she won an Academy Award for her portrayal of Judy Garland in that film.
Wow.
So, my notes are a lot shorter than I thought they were, apparently. But that was the interesting quinkydinks that had to do with The Wizard of Oz. And the Dark Side of the Moon was the conspiracy that I knew about. I was not aware of any of the stuff that happened to Judy. I mean, granted, I don't pay attention to a lot of Hollywood. I don't care.
Oh,
But,
my mom loves old Hollywood, so she talks about that stuff. And she's
okay.
read books about it. So I kind of
Yeah.
grew up listening to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, your mom's
And
got a thing for musicals, and I hate musicals.
yeah,
I
I'm a
really do.
sucker for like a come up story, I guess you would say. So like I kind of knew about
The Underdog?
yeah, the underdog. I kind of knew about like old Hollywood because of Drew Barrymore's story.
Mhm.
Her grandfather is the old banker, the bad guy in the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but like they're a whole family of Hollywood royalty actors and actresses. And she was kind of put into that life. I mean, as you know, she was like toddler age in ET.
Oh, yeah.
And she made that movie. What was that movie where she lit things on fire with her mind?
I don't know. I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's like a Stephen King novel, I think. Maybe. Don't quote me. But yeah.
Sorry, cats in the background. Um, realistically, the only thing I know about Drew Barrymore is E.T. and Charlie's Angels, and she has like a talk show, I think.
Yeah, she's like a talk show host now. Yeah.
She does have her own makeup line. I do know that.
Yes.
And I think it's supposed to be like vegan.
And kitchen appliances.
Oh, and kitchen appliances.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah,
And
I
like
respect.
decor and stuff.
I respect Drew Barrymore because I've like heard some of her interviews and stuff like that. That she was the drug addicted, teenage movie star, whatever lifestyle, and she got herself cleaned up and wanted to bring awareness to the world over that. So I give her props.
Yeah. I was just watching something about Corey Feldman recently. Like it feels like these child stars all like end up in bad ways,
Yeah.
especially the ones related to Disney that's coming up a
Oh,
lot.
yeah, I've
But
heard
yeah,
some
I
really
watched
nasty stories.
Jamie French. I love her. She's on YouTube. I was
Okay.
watching her videos today.
Yeah,
She like watched this episode of Celebrity Wife Swap with Corey Feldman.
that is the dumbest thing.
And I have to look into this because it's kind of culty. He has like, so Corey Feldman doesn't have anything to show for like his being a child star now.
Yeah.
So, he has like this group of girls, women living in his house
Mm,
that he like has kind of promised to help them get into the industry if they take his classes and become one of his angels. But they have to live in the house. They become fruitarians, so they only eat fruit.
that doesn't
Um,
sound healthy.
they have to work out every day, and they have to wear this like skimpy clothes.
Um,
Yeah, that he picked out.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's
and they
a
have to perform in his like band while he sings,
whether it's culty or not, that's disturbing.
and you have to stay a certain weight and all that stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, creepy. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Anyway, side rant aside,
Hmm.
let's do the word of the day.
Oh, okay.
How about you do it this time?
Oh, you want me to do it this time?
I'm the one that's always having to read stuff.
Okay. I have so many pages of notes. I
Mhm.
just don't like. Uh, what is it?
Script.
Yeah, I don't script my notes. I legit make notes for me to read.
I I script because I'll forget talking points.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see here. Today's word for August 28th is punctilio. Oh boy. A minute detail of conduct in a ceremony or in the observance of a code. Definition 2, careful observance of forms, as in social conduct. The end of the affair manages to make even the punctilios of Catholic doctrine feel profoundly relevant. Alex Preston, The Independent in UK, February 17, 2012.
Did you know?
I gotta get past it first because my issue with the sounds. We'll get straight to the point. That's actually what it says. There are a number of English words that. Oh, I get it now. Hold on a minute. There are a number of English words that come from the Latin pung.
Pungar?
Well, it's
Pungar.
Latin, so I don't know. Makes me want to say it's pungere.
Okay.
All right, I'll try that. Pungere, meaning to prick or to sting. Punctilio is one of these words. It traces back to pungere by way of Italian.
Okay.
Punctilio, meaning small point. I am sure I definitely pronounced that wrong, so I apologize if you know Italian. But meaning small point or point of honor or scruple. Now the Spanish word puntilio, the diminutive of punto, meaning point.
Okay.
Careful saying that word. Found that out the hard way. Because, never mind. If you missed the N in that word, you are calling somebody a bad name.
I know that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't in Spanish class. Meaning marked by or concerned about precise accordances with the details of codes or conventions, is a close relative of punctilio. Do you have any guesses for other pungere derivatives?
Nope.
Punctuate, puncture, compunction, compunction.
Conjunction function. Conjunction junction. What's your function?
I'm glad you caught that. Punctual and pungent are some of these common words.
Cool beans.
Yeah, so that was our word of the day.
All right.
Guess what? That means you get to tell them where they find. Yeah.
Where they find us?
Yep.
Okay, that.
Yeah, that.
You can find us on all social media platforms except for Twitter at This and That with Me and You.
Yep.
We're on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram,
Not
and
Twitter.
YouTube.
Yeah, not Twitter.
Yes. You can also, if you have any suggestions or just want to like chit chat or whatever, you can email us on at tatwmay1
tatwmay1@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And we are actually like, I don't know about Cassie, but I know about myself here. I really want to do like a listener story sometime. So if y'all have like either true crime or, just literally any kind of story that you want to be heard, send it our way.
Yeah, hell yeah.
By the way, if you watch our YouTube videos, more recent episode that has been released, I learned how to do some extra little things on there. So fun learning as we go. You'll start seeing some pretty interesting things pop up that weren't in previous videos.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that was this
And that.
with me.
And you.
I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
See you next week, guys. Bye.